We are live. Hey, y'all. It's Nadia and Obasi once again,
Jeez.
hitting you with some cool content today. We are discussing Three Eye Atlas and how crazy it is because Obasi was so confused when I said, hey, we did them last week, which was your topic. Let's do Three Eye Atlas, which is my topic. Because, I'm from outer space, Martian things all day. Hey, shout out to the intergalactics. Know what I mean? So, Obasi, tell us what your initial thoughts were when you found out that this is really crazy.
Yo, cause like when you sent me the message and you sent me the idea, I didn't see it was an eye, so I thought it said 31 Atlas, and I thought it was a movie. So if you read the text, I was like, yo, I'm gonna
Yeah,
see if
you
I
do.
can find it. But I didn't know what it was, so I started reading. And I was like, oh hell no, this is what the hell is this? But my first initial thoughts after I started to figure out what it was, I was like, yo, Queen, you got your wish. They coming to pick you up.
Facts.
But
That was my first initial thing. Peace to Chris. He on a live on the chat. What's good?
yo,
RBG. What's good?
what's up, G?
Yes. Um, I'm hyped because when I first found out about this intergalactic, it's called Three Eye Atlas. Let's just get it, straight. It is the third interstellar object to enter into our atmosphere, into our solar system, which is why it's called Three Eye Atlas. So we had two others in the past, but oftentimes when they see these things, they try to immediately classify them as something according to NASA, right? So initially, people thought that it was some type of satellite, some type of comet. People still believe that it's a comet, but it is not acting as a normal comet would and should. So there were 12 different anomalies, which is what does not make it a traditional comet. I'm not going to give them because I'm not going to get all into the science of it all. But what I will say is that because it's not acting like commentary behavior would be, people are now wondering if this is really some type of satellite or some type of mothership that is attached to a smaller device. And people don't realize that there are now two things. They believe that the Three Eye Atlas is probably simply just a drone. People are giving out different assumptions in what they believe. But because a traditional comet has gas in the back of it that creates a long and gated tail, we don't necessarily see that because once it swarms and it moves around, usually the tail would get all crazy and bushy, just to lack of better words. And that is not happening here. It is still in a precision and it is still in a straight movement, which makes it non-traditional. It doesn't make it necessarily something that we would normally see in a comet. So right now, a lot of conspiracy theorists or people who are not licensed or, they don't have any NASA training or any space training, but they are definitely wondering what this is in the night sky. So we're supposed to have the Three Eye Atlas hit us or get to the closest of Earth. Excuse me, not hit us. Let's not bring fear in. It's supposed to be the closest to Earth on the winter solstice, which I thought was really interesting, which is December 19th. So on December 19th, we're supposed to see the Three Eye Atlas come the closest it will be ever to the planet Earth. And we don't know what to expect, right? So around the end of October, we were supposed to see the Three Eye Atlas go behind the sun. And now this was very significant because if it goes behind the sun, it can do one of two things. It could either melt because of all of the ice that is on Three Eye Atlas, and it could blow up and disintegrate, or it could actually get more energy. And now we can see its true colors. So if you could see this picture slightly in the back of us, it is blue. And it's basically just a way to show us that this thing illuminated even brighter. It did not dissolve, it did not explode, it did not, blow up. So China, because of the government shutdown, started to release their own photos from their Mars satellite because NASA, you just immediately went into hibernation and shut down their, data center and wouldn't release any information because of the government shutdown. So China took it upon themselves to release it because at the end of the day, they are their own people, and decided to release these amazing photos that they took from when the Three-Eye Atlas passed by Mars. And truth be told, no one believes any longer that this is a comet because it's not acting like one. There were two colors that were illuminated during this phase, which was initially red and then it was blue. So now that we are seeing the red and the blue, it brings me to what I decided to look deeper into, because back in 2022, my friend Greg was like, yo, you really need to look into the Hopi prophecy. HOPI, which comes from the Hopi people out in the mesas in Arizona. And the Hopi prophecy is one that goes back some civilizations, but it's basically just warning the people that we are about to be ushered into a new civilization. So before I kind of get into that further, I just want to play tag and tap my partner Obasi in, just so he can kind of piggyback on his thoughts about what I've already said, or just any scientific data that he has researched and looked up based upon this new concept that I sent him this week, and what your thoughts are, and we can segue the conversation from there.
Well, first thing I looked at, I was like, when I some things that stuck out to me, they was like, they suspended the idea, or they're suspending the idea that this is a comet because of the rapid brightness and the patterns and the acceleration. So they're like, it's not moving. But you pointed it out. What really was confusing them and puzzling them were the jet streams, because they're like, the jet streams are, and then they said where it rotates every 16 hours. So then that started making me think, like, well, how big is this thing? Or it's like it rotates every 16 hours. But what was also throwing them off when I was looking into it, they were like, well, how is it rotating like this, but those streams are still remaining steady? So I'm like, and that was my thing. You pointed out, like, okay, as it moves toward the sun, what is going to happen to it? And then I started thinking, I was like, do you think that NASA shut down? Okay, during the government shutdown, do you think that NASA shut down and didn't research this? I don't think they did. I think they continuously like searched. And speaking of releasing stuff, everybody, are saying release the files, release those Epstein files. Like, this is the thing that people are also saying, yo, release the pictures, release some of these files, release the information, allow the people to know, because we know Elon Musk now, out of all the people that was talking about dealing in transparency and truth, is this guy. And I'm like, but I don't think, I think NASA continued to research. I think NASA continued to watch. I don't think that they didn't shut down.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
There's no way. I mean, I have family that work in government and friends. They all went to work every day. So realistically speaking, they still went to work. Allegedly there was some type of what was it? Signal that was given off once it kind of came around past the sun, the Three-Eye Atlas, and allegedly NASA concealed that data so no one else could receive it or see it. So now it's considered confidential information, because whatever signal went off of the Three-Eye Atlas, it usually comes in a code. And this code will give you the power of the signal according to, I think, numbers 1 through 9, and then A through Z. So in the past, back in like 1977, there was a signal that was given off from a different type of device, and that interstellar object, I should say, ended up giving off a super powerful code. So they're believing that this is like the smaller version of that larger device. So they believe that once the two devices went behind the sun, where it's out of view from us, which they know we have life here on Earth, They believe that they conjoined together and had some type of meeting and just became more powerful. So that's why it's so really interesting about what would happen on the winter solstice, December 19th. Would we be able to see this in the night sky? Would we be able to see that elongated tail that you mentioned? We know Elon Musk to be like the king of tech, right? He was just given a salary package of $1 trillion, first person in human history to ever receive that type of salary, for over 10 years. And a lot of people, have concerns like, is this really the end of civilization? Which is why I had suggested that you watch the movie Deep Impact with Morgan Freeman as president, and Don't Look Up, which was given out in 2021, which was Leonardo DiCaprio. And they basically, kind of gave us information about, to me, the Three-Eye Atlas. You know what I mean? Because think about it. They said that in Deep Impact, there's thing that was the size of Manhattan was floating in space, but in that case, it was really a comet and it was supposed to directly impact the planet. Now, Three-Eye Atlas is actually the same size of that comet that they mentioned in Deep Impact. And also in the other movie, Don't Look Up, it was the same exact type of thing. So it's like, has this been in our faces the whole time? Deep Impact was from like the late 90s.
So with so like with it, okay, so let's unpack and entertain that one, because if it's been in our face all the time, does that mean that it's just been getting closer and closer? And now that's why they're bringing attention to it? Because I noticed when they were talking about the tail, they were like, they don't see it anymore. So it's like, did it not disappear? It didn't disappear. It didn't go nowhere. But does it mean it's getting closer and that's why they can't see it anymore? Because like right now, everybody is like, and when I'm paying attention to them, they're theorizing and they saying all of this, but I'm like, this thing ain't just no comet. Like, and now I'm on it now, and I'm gonna look more and more. But I'm like, this is not a comet. But back to my question: do you think that it's been in our faces, but it's just starting to get up close, and now we can see it? So now it's like,
I think that's always the case, right? Especially when it comes to our government. I don't think that anything is ever given out just willy-nilly. I always feel like it's on a need-to-know basis. When I was watching Deep Impact, one thing that they said on there was, he was like, oh, the president has been cheating with this woman. He's announcing a divorce from his wife. And this reporter from MSNBC was suggesting that she didn't believe that story that they gave because they knew the wife, the president's wife, was an alcoholic. So based upon that information, they didn't believe that the husband had an affair or had multiple women. So she somehow ends up digging deep and has a conversation with the first lady. And based upon her conversation with the first lady, she said, all I know is that there's this woman named Ellie that they continuously talk about. Once he gets a call on this phone, he disappears and they have these private conversations with this woman named Ellie. Who is Ellie? So come to find out, Ellie wasn't a woman. It was ELLE, which is abbreviation for extinction level event or something like that. ELE, just one L. Yes. So ELE, which could be inverted as Ellie, right? Women always be hearing shit. Yeah, I know who you talking to. Getting all extra and ghetto. Fuck you and that bitch, type shit.
That ain't even the case.
Extra, and whole time it was literally something that was going to hit the planet and impact us in such a major way that now here we are with an extinction level event the size of Manhattan, which is also now Three-Eye Atlas floating in our, atmosphere. So depending on if this comes as close as it does, of course, with science and just with nature in general, we cannot know as much information. Sure, we all have telescopes now. The average person can see it floating through space right now with a telescope. But as it gets closer, I think that's really when more info would be released. And I think this is where we have to start possibly relying on other sources of media for information. Because if China supplied us with this picture, that we have in the thumbnail of this live in our back room presently, we didn't get those from our own country. Right. So we have to now start looking into those BBCs. We have to start looking into other streams of media for this information. That's my healthy suggestion, right? Because if our own country where we live isn't going to give us that information, we still need to be in the know, right? Because what if this does, for whatever reason, because this is the first time it did go off course. What if it goes off course again and now all of a sudden decides to come to us, right? As people living on this planet, we deserve to know.
Right. And you know what? It's like, okay, like you said, that need to know basis. And it makes me think about the book Behold the Pale Horse. And where he's talking about where he was in the Navy. Always, this part always stuck out to me. He says he was in the Navy and him and some of his naval buddies was just hanging around one night. He said they saw like a unidentified flying object. So they're all seeing this. It's not just him. It's not just William Cooper. They're all seeing this. Now, this is what I call the Christopher Columbus effect, right? So they're like, yo, we should report this to our superiors and let them know what we're saying. Need to know basis, right? We need to report this to our superiors and let them know. So he says, like, his shipmates, they went in first. And they went in and they told, what they seen. So he says his first homie came out and he looked like spooked, like shook. Like, what the hell? So he gets his turn in there and he goes in there, he tells them what he's seen. He go to Christopher Columbus effect. If you want to pass that test, you better say Christopher Columbus discovered America. So it's like, he tells what he's seen, says, the superior said, no, that's not what you seen. He said, yes, it is. He said, no. That's not what it's saying. And I got a feeling by the time, I'm paraphrasing, I got a feeling by the time you leave this room, you're going to agree that that's not what you're saying. Needless to say, all of them was like, yo, no, we ain't see Jack. And that's how they do you. They like, no, you ain't see that. No, and you're not going to tell nobody what you're saying. And if you tell them, we're going to visit you. And it's like, oh. But you kind of did like an add-on when you showed me this, because I was reading, I think I sent you the article on digital eugenics, which is fucking insane. But the headline, and we're still gonna talk about this, but I just want to throw out because you mentioned it. Like the headline or the topic in that it says digital eugenics and the extinction of humanity. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. We're not gonna just slide past this word extinction. And it's like, but I think that they're letting on. And I was reading in the comments, which was funny. And I was reading in the comments on one of these 3i Atlas videos, and they were like, "Yo, if they're looking for intelligent life, they need to just bypass Earth because."
Facts.
I was like, "Yo, boy, tell the truth, shade them devils," because like we live, like, and I always hear your voice saying, like, "Yo, Earth is so ghetto right now. Like we really got all type of things going on," and. Like you said, we need to really like look at these outside, because we haven't heard, at least I have. You sent me this information. I haven't heard one thing about this.
Really?
Any other news outlets?
I was so shocked because this is all that I watch. I mean, I don't watch television. You
are aliens, so you.
I mean, of course, I'm gonna know about 3i Atlas.
You get the direct message, but no, the platforms that we depend on for our news, they're not saying this, and that's by design.
That's so interesting because, like I said, I feel like this is all on my feed. It's all on my feed on Facebook, and it's all on my feed on Instagram. Those are the only two social medias that I rock with, and YouTube. But on the TV, so you know how when you go into YouTube, they have like recommended videos for you. Yeah. For me, it's always like Afro Lo-Fi, the channel that I have, Blue Martian Radio, with all of
I like the Blue Martian Radio.
Shout out to Blue Martian Radio, okay? So it has all of those like jazz instrumentals, things like that. Where one day I'm like, let me just keep scrolling because my whole entire recommended video is like sleep music, this, and that. It's all instrumentals. And then it just said 3i Atlas. And I was like, what the heezy is that? In my past life, I was 100% all in on science. STEM is bae. So I'm sitting here looking into it, and I honestly feel like this came out in July because I started learning about it probably like August, September, like actively learning about it. But what was more interesting to me was that I immediately thought about the Hopi people, just to kind of bring it back, because the Hopi people who are in Mesa, Arizona, right, they believed in the red star and the blue star Kachina. Now, people who follow my page often, hear me talking about the red sun, the blue sun, the yellow sun, right? There are three suns. But these are just energies and forces that the Hopi people believe will be the reminder, or the stars in the sky that will remind us that a new civilization is on its way. So allegedly there were four civilizations, and we are now living in that fourth civilization of people. So now you have hieroglyphs, right, that we see in Kemet in Egypt, and then you have petroglyphs, which are often visualized in mudded or on mountainous terrains out in the deserts, more specifically around the Grand Canyon. So many of the Hopi people believe that their people left these things behind for them to discover, which is why they're always in caves. So the Hopi people, when they know that the end of the earth is here or scheduled to come, let's talk about that extinction level event. When that event actually comes to our planet, they go underground. They go in these caves, and they go until they feel that it is now a sense of time and protection. Like, so in Deep Impact, Morgan Freeman said, we are building these caves underground, and we know them to be bunkers, right? They have a show on TV right now on Netflix called Billionaire Bunker. So there is these bunkers that people will go into to save humanity. We knew that during biblical times, there were four different ways, right? The planet is supposed to be ruined. So we had fire, we had ice, because we know about the ice age, and then we had a comet, and we also had flood. So God allegedly said, we will never, ever, ever use water to extinguish the earth. So the next thing to me for this fourth level of civilization would have to be just Mother Nature revolting, right? So now we see an uproar in volcanic activity. We see lots of hurricanes, typhoons, and now we see a lot of earthquakes happening. So Mother Nature is basically just reacting to the way people have treated her, right? When you think about it, right, I'm about to go a little bit deep on nerd life. When you think about it, a lot of people technically weren't supposed to have cars. Back when Henry Ford, allegedly created the first automobile, they said that that car was only for wealthy people. Right after the Great Depression, there was only supposed to be a certain amount of people who had access to credit, which was only wealthy people. And then they realized that we needed more people to have access to these things to kind of get the economy up and running again because of the Great Depression. So what did they end up doing? They ended up allowing all people to have access to credit and all people to have access to buying vehicles. So that's basically how they started this process again, right? So this is no different to where we are fast forward. So now everybody have access to cars. Everyone has access to a cell phone, right? Because remember, cell phones had some type of exclusivity. You had the big bag cell phone, back in the 80s, early 90s, then you were a rich guy, right? You had a mobile phone in your car. Who the hell is that with the long antenna? Like, we knew
The
some
sucker, yeah, the antenna's almost bigger than the phone.
bigger than you, child. So, when you have these types of things, all taking place, and now you're giving people no longer that exclusivity and you're making it mainstream, you're actually seeing how all of these things can slowly but surely ruin Earth, right? Because things are now being mass produced. So now you got this industrial boom. You have everybody working, everybody. Now you let women into the workforce, and now you have double that energy, right? So the earth has slowly been dying for several decades, centuries even, right? People are saying that Yellowstone hasn't had like a major eruption, San Andreas Fault hasn't had a major earthquake. Like all of these things are delayed almost like 100, 200 years. So at some point, Mother Earth is ready to explode. And this is where that extinction level event is going to happen. So those who are living above ground, sure, something may happen, right? And that's why you have all of this bunker talk happening, because all it is just taking the information from the Hopi people, knowing that you have to go underground for at least 2 years, 1 to 2 years before things are okay. Think about that Noah's Ark energy, right? They let out the dove to see if there was going to be land nearby for us to land. And then he came back with a branch, which saying, okay, we can get off the boat now. But they took a certain amount of people and they took every single animal, right? This is going to be no different. In the movie Deep Impact, they took 1 million people, and they took like 20% were like people who were of STEM, scientists, doctors, engineers, certain people who knew how to get shit done. Let's just make it plain.
Right.
So I feel like we are approaching that type of information, especially when the Hopi people know, like, okay, if we see the blue star Kachina and the red star Katrina, which is considered the twins, if we see them dancing in the night sky, which is why we see the three-eye atlas flowing between red and blue colors, because technically they're dancing, right? Think about somebody doing like a tango or whatever. You're taking turns being the lead when you're dancing. So one day it's blue, one day it's red, back to blue, back to red. So to the Hopi people, this is a sign that the fifth civilization is about to be ushered in. And what's so important about this part is that a lot of people don't realize that people have to get their souls right, right? This is something that we talked about last week,
Mm-hmm.
operating in that love frequency,
Mm-hmm.
operating in that high chakra energy, right? That sacral, that throat, that third eye, that, crown chakra. Like we cannot really operate in the lower frequencies any longer, because if you're not operating in a spiritual realm in a high vibrational way, then you're not going to be able to thrive with anyone around you. Any vices that you may have on those low vibrational chakras and frequencies are going to be multiplied. They're saying that we're about to enter the dark ages. What do the dark ages look like? Right? People say it's like modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Two separate cities. It's going to be dark vibrational people who will technically kill off themselves.
Right. Right. So that's how I look at it. It's like the battle of the end of civilization, right? In a sense, like who and how will it end? Because okay, and I think I was kind of mentioning this to you a little bit earlier, where you got science versus technology, and then it meets nature. You just threw in the nature component because, like you said, Mother Earth is ready to explode. It's sick of this. Sick of this.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the Hopi people prophecy that they look at it like this. But then you got this whole digital wave of transhumanism and how they want to come with. Okay, so now you got eugenics. If we thought eugenics was something with people like Margaret Sanger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're the sickos are determining who shall be the ones fit to be the people that are fit to live, the people that are fit. And when you get into like Palantir and you get into Alex Carp, billionaires, and this is what I did. Sidebar. This is what I understood when you are a white billionaire and you saying the most asinine things versus when you like Kanye West and we're listening to him talk and they're like, yo, he's crazy. And I sit and I listen to Alex Carp give several speeches. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is he? He's really just rambling. And then when I'm reading the comments, because I'm a comment reader, Queen, when I'm reading the comments, they're like, yo, this is a masterful speech. And I'm like, it is? But when we listen to them and when we listen to how they're talking about it, like, yo, I'm gonna read something real quick, and I sent you in this, and this is the whole thing of the transhumanism. But this is what I point out, Queen. This is what I want people to understand, because, like you said, this is the importance of the love frequency. This is the importance of getting your soul right. This is the importance of, man, stop all this gender war back in who need. No, because they got a plan. Like, there's I think I sent you that movie. It's called Cosmic Slop. And I sent you that, and the gist of this one is, again, Queen, they trying to tell us something, and this is like way back in the 90s. But the film is saying that the aliens or the foreign lifers are coming to life, are coming to Earth, but they only wanted to get the black people. And it's like, go figure, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like they always want to leave us behind, or they only coming to get us. So what is the message that they're telling us? But I want to read this part right here, and because, okay, they also was talking about like doing mind uploads. And it's like, oh, you do know this shit not gonna work. But to me, this sounds like cyborgs, and I'm like, okay, so this one says, let me move so I can read it. It says, in a recent interview with Vox, the virtual reality pioneer and tech critic Jaron Lanier said that he meets many people working in AI who believe, now get this, who believe that it would be good to wipe people out, and that AI is the future. AI and that would be good to wipe people out, and that the future of AI would be a better one. He adds that, now listen to this. He adds that some of these people don't want to have bio babies because they worry that it would make them feel attached to the biological world. It's much more important to be committed to the AI of the future. He continued to add, and so to have human babies is fundamentally unethical. And I'm like, yo, wait, hold on. So that's just one. I got another part, but I want like when I unpack that, so I'm like, okay, it's the battle of extinction, right? So they got their plans to how they want to do, and then it's like nature's way. And then this is how we know these people are degenerate by nature, because these are the only people that war with nature. Do you know how off you got to be to war with nature?
Yes, you come from the Caucasus Mountains. So how could you live in nature and don't forget it?
Yeah, I mean, and here go the other part, and then we're gonna unpack this. Last month, on an AI market researcher, an AI market researcher commented to creating post-human intelligence, named Daniel Fagilla, hosted a symposium in San Francisco mansion and titled "Worthy Successor: AI and the Future of Humankind." He reports that it was attended by AI founders, researchers, and all of the top Western labs, and the most important philosophical thinkers, AGI. A worthy successor, he argues. It is a post-human intelligence so capable. Now, this is what gets me. It's a post-human intelligence so capable and morally valued that you would gladly prefer that it, not humanity, control the government and determine the future path of human life itself. So I'm like, and to bring it all back in to what you're talking about, and this is what I want our listeners to understand. It's not about this shit that y'all think, because the more that they use the more that they use, I definitely want to hear what you got to say, but the more that they use their propaganda, right?
Mm-hmm.
The more that they use their propaganda to get us to see or not see value in each other, us being black people, us being to not see value in each other, it's more easy for them to eradicate us and feel good. They're like, well, they're not really that important. They're just people. And I'm like, wait, it's
They're
always
just,
the verbiage when I read their literature or read something that they're posting, Queen. But what you make of that?
I watched a movie on Netflix called Mother,
Mother.
and it was about an artificial intelligence mother who had an artificial incubation system, kind of like in the Matrix, how they had these artificial wombs and people just waiting to be resuscitated, if you will.
Mhm.
And she basically decided to, I guess, every so often resuscitate or birth a new human. And every single time that they did that, it would be considered like a test. So she did it twice where she was extremely successful. And she was like, hey, now that you're 18, it's time to birth a new sibling. Let's do a woman or a male. So she would have the kid pick it, and you would literally see this artificial intelligence being born in like a couple of days time, from an embryo to a full 9-month-old growth baby.
So
So,
pause. So
mhm,
pause. So they could pick the gender.
yeah, I'm almost certain that it was
Okay.
like you choose, because they had just systems like men and women, in the system, and she would be like, oh, this is your new brother. So it was really interesting. It's called Mother. You should watch it. It's on Netflix. So this is basically what we're talking about. And it's giving a version of like Get Out meets AI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's to me it's just sad, because like I said, this is how we should know that there has to be other species around the planet. To me, these people cannot be people. They have to be some type of entity that is not human, because I personally believe in the Galactic Federation, right? Where there are multiple species, there are multiple herbs. And this is where we go back into the Hopi prophecy. I believe there were 8 different types of um, species, and they all commune and intermingle with one another. So if this is the third planet to be inhabited, right? There are other species that exist, and we call them reptilians, right? We believe like the reptilians are the people who are in control right now of the United States. They were given the permission to come to this planet to be in charge of the humans, and they act like it. And this is why, to my response to your, how do you go against nature? And it's because they're not human. You know what I mean? Like you can't technically believe in, how can you not believe in something that gives us life, right? We come here, we have oxygen, we have food, we eat off of the earth. It's filled with life, as far as like plants and animals. So how could we, all of a sudden, just because I feel like you're the one doing the hunting as far as the animals go, doesn't mean that you should be the one to also charge a price for it too, right? Whatever happens to the barter system? How come we're not just naturally given and taken to our peers, right? I grew up in the inner city on Staten Island as a kid, and if I had eggs and you had sugar, now we switching, right? That was a form of bartering. If I had something that you needed, it goes no different to services, right? If I know how to milk a cow and you know how to make syrup, like, why aren't we bartering for that? If I know how to build a website, but you know how to do marketing, why aren't we exchanging that, right? So I feel like we kind of need to learn how to operate in this world with our higher stages and higher sets of consciousness and our higher chakras, so that we can operate a little bit more better. Because if they are, running this country down, if they are changing the currency, if they are trying to block out the sun, because which we know, which is where these chemtrails and such come from, right? With higher states of other elements in the sky. I saw something on YouTube over the weekend where this gentleman, because during the shutdown, it was known that there weren't as many chemtrails in the sky. So this guy said that every single day that he had a sauna put in his house so that he can detox the metals that are being sprayed, because I guess he lives in like some type of rural area. And he ended up doing his blood work before with no chemtrails and the blood work after with chemtrails. And before it was like 230 bips, let's call it. And then the day that he saw the chemtrails were back, it was over 2,000. So he's like, it's important for us to remove these metals from our system on a daily basis, whether if you're going to a sauna or if you're drinking or just some type of cardio to sweat, you have to sweat out these toxins every single day. So to go back to your point about digital eugenics and transhumanism, they are trying to kill us off, but it kind of reminds me of the Georgia Guidestones, right? I had visited them before they blew up in 2021. And it said they had to get humanity down to 500 million. It was literally in plain sight.
Yeah, I saw. I went and saw them too. Yes.
Yeah, it's in plain sight. Well, not anymore. But once they tore them down, they had a time capsule under there. We don't know what that time capsule information is. We don't know what was listed in there. Maybe it talked about 3I Atlas, right? We don't know what was in that time capsule. It was probably the last piece of the puzzle to tell them how to get down to 500 million people, right? We don't know. So, my number one concern when it comes down to artificial intelligence and utilizing AI, there has to be a bubble at some point, right? Because how many people have some type of AI system besides ChatGPT that is basically running the internet? I have watched I get stock newsletters. I'm into like money and understand how money grows or whatever, and news. So I get the top 5 business stories and the top 5 global stories in the world every single morning, 6 a.m. And I'm reading it today, and it was talking about ChatGPT and how it's so obvious that so many people are using ChatGPT to run their businesses, to write articles, to write newsletters. Nobody is using their brain any longer. So what are we going to do when everybody is consumed and this is all that they're doing?
Yes.
Right? Because we're halfway there.
Yes.
We're halfway there.
So the whole thing of, because it's like when I think about cyber immortality, and they're like, they're like, well, even when I pass on, download my mind to keep me here. And here's the schism in the argument that they're having, because some of them is like, yo, this ain't gonna work how you think, because it's like, okay, even to keep my intelligence around, and say, okay, go back to Peter Thiel and Alex Carp when they're having these conversations on this. And they're like, well, you got transgenderism, you got transvestites, so we want to be able to switch bodies. Get out. We want to be able to switch bodies, but you don't have my soul, so it's like my intelligence is still here. And it's like the old movie Universal Soldier back in the day. So Jean-Claude Van Damme was killed in a fight against Dolph Lundgren, but they preserved him and brought him back. But his memory began to cut back on, and he would remember certain things from the previous life. And it's like, that's what we're really headed toward. And to really understand, because now it's like, to me, it's like all of them is like pieces. So even when we're looking at like how, I think I sent you the article, I don't know if I sent you the article on the ICE and how they're trying to have total surveillance of social media.
Ago, I think. Maybe
so this is
last month.
Yeah, okay, so I did send it to you. So here go the movies again. This is where the Minority Report kicks in, and they're like, see, and this is why I think that when we pay attention, when we really slow down and stop looking at the people, because Donald Trump is only the mouthpiece of
the corporation.
Yeah, he's really, but when we slow down and we listen to what they're focusing on. So they're focusing on crime and they're focusing on this. So it's like now we're going to be able to predict through the total surveillance on ICE. And I think one part that in the article that I sent you, it was like, and I'm paraphrasing, they were like, we're going to be able to, like, they're looking for anybody that has negative reviews against ICE. So it's like, what does that mean? So now it's like Minority Report. Now you're predicting that based off of my text messages, based off of all my information that you're able to gather on me, you're saying, oh, this person is going to be a future threat. No proof now.
Mm-hmm.
But
And that,
I feel, and I'm going to land it, I feel based off of how your thought patterns are going, you're anti-American. You have Trump derangement syndrome.
And this is why I keep telling you, and I've been saying it, and we've been agreeing. This is why there's going to come a point where the chosen people are going to have to be quiet, because our intellectual thoughts and comments and things that we've said, you don't think that we're already on a list? Let's be honest.
I said
I've been on a list from before the list got created. Like, that's really how I feel, because they was like, oh, it's too many of these people who think the same, right? Think about when we get together RBG crews and everybody's under the one roof and they like, how all of these people know each other, right? Like, we're never safe. Even if we're by ourselves, we're never safe, right? I think that some of us are a little naive and don't really understand the capacity of how extensive their power truly is. Initially it reminds me of Enemy of the State, right? With, I think it was Hugh Jackman and Will Smith. 25-year-old movie, right? Where Will Smith was like some top-notch lawyer. Lisa Bonet was also in there. Who else was in there? I forgot her name. Sis with the baby, or you beating her husband in the bathroom. Gina King, yeah. Why is that my first thought? But yeah.
Sis that's beating that's husband with the baby on.
Baby. Like, that's up. So, thinking about that energy in that movie, they used everything against him. His watch was tapped. He had smoke detectors, like everything was tapped. And this is basically telling us that the National Security Agency, the NSA, is bigger than we know. That was a 25-year-old movie telling us about that. And then now we have Snowden, right? Who's releasing documents telling us that this is a real thing, right? Then I had posted something in my story yesterday on Instagram about how Apple is about to release a digital ID. And I think I saw them like agreeing, because I think the state of Maryland also gives your driver's license digitally. Like everybody, then we had during the pandemic, the people who were vaccinated had access to digital passports, right, to show their pandemic jabs or whatever the freak is called. These things are all being digitized for a reason. It's programming you. Think about direct deposit. I used to be a banker for a decade, right? In the early 2000s, 2010-ish, something like that. I was a banker. And we would get the money like for signing people up for direct deposit. And it was so vintage back then, right? Because everybody used to get paper checks and used to be at the check cash in place. And now all of a sudden we got direct deposit, which is a form of digital currency, right? We don't realize that we've played into these games for how many years, right? And now they're giving us debit cards, and then now the debit card's got the little chip on the top. Your old debit card would immediately stop working, right? If you did not have this new debit card that would have the RFID chip on it, right? Make sure you keep it in your bag, otherwise it could be hackable, right? So that's that fear Nazi shit that they do, right? And then now all of a sudden you got to do the tap, right? Think about it. Now we went from tapping our cards to just tapping our phones with the little on my iPhone, it's the wallet, right? Samsung wallet, Apple wallet, like we're all just comfortably utilizing these services that we're going to just segue ourselves right into without people realizing what's already happening. This is why I still use cash. You know what I mean? Like, we have to recognize that they're already conditioning us, just like a lot of people are naturally conditioned to us using our cell phones for everything, right? It is a mini computer. I'm on the train the other day, and every single person that was on the train was on their cell phones. And I'm like, bro, I'm on a machine going 150 miles per hour. There's no way I'm not paying attention to my
So that
cell
means, and
phones.
that's exactly what that means. That means nobody's paying attention. Nobody's observing anything that could happen. Everybody's like this.
Ain't no way. My shit is tucked away somewhere. The only thing that I got is one headphone. I always do one or the other. I'm never in it at both. Like, I don't care what's going on around me. If I'm not in my home, like, I'm not gonna not have only one headset on. Do you understand? Like, people are being immune to their surroundings. Like, when I see people with the big headphones on in the gym, going down the street, walking down the street, nobody is paying attention. So when that movie Don't Look Up came out, and I was like, this is so true. Like, nobody's ever going to look up and see the anomalies that are happening in the sky, right? We just had major impactful solar flares that hit us over the week, and the sky was literally red. My whole Facebook was pictures of people showing red photos of the auroras last week. Like, people are not paying attention to just even the basics. They don't even recognize that we're ushering ourselves willingly into a digital society. And this is why I have a problem with digital eugenics.
And they're doing it in the name of like convenience. Just think how they get us accustomed to it. And then soon it's gonna be just a little handprint. Just tap your hand up there. Or just scan your retina. You see, so it's gonna be more toward, and then like they got us conditioned for like the wearable technology, the watches, all of these things, drop by drop, drop by drop. Oh, it's nothing. And then what we say? Oh man, we've been doing that. Yeah, that's the problem. We've been doing it, and we never even really paid attention to it. So to circle back around to like the love frequency, I think honestly that's why we're not connected to our human instincts anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I think. I think, in my opinion, this is why we can't feel compassion, because we're always like robotic in a sense. We're always like, think about it. Like the check cashing place was like Blockbuster Video. We're gonna go back to our age now. Okay, so even though like the convenience of just streaming a movie, order the movie up, and Netflix and chill. It was a vibe here to go on Cleveland Avenue on a Friday night and go to the Blockbuster, and you had to stand there and pick out your movie, and you had to get there before the movie would be available. That was an able of us connecting.
Yeah.
And the convenience got us away from that, and we and I always talk about like the breaking or the separating of us as a people was a slow, deliberate process. It wasn't all necessarily violence per se. They used a lot of that, but they also used a lot of technology. They also used a lot of humor. So it's like convenience. Oh, now, and that put people out of jobs. Like people used to work at Blockbusters. People used to that get rid of jobs. Now, and that also get rid of like how we meet up, and you'll sit there and you'll talk to somebody. They would have a game section over there. There's no more of that because everything you can get it right here to your home. PlayStation Network, you can order it up right there and have it come to you. And it's not necessary. We don't know how to interact with each other. Like you said, everybody is like, just think about it. I was talking to somebody over the weekend. Some of my friends came and visited, and the sister that was here, she was around our age. So we were talking about payphones. We were talking about payphones that we had. And all of this. I say, I'm an 80s and 90s baby, so I say we had the best era because we got to see arguments, we got to see everything. So it was the payphones. We got to see how we socialize together. So now, why we can't to say what I'm saying, why we can't tap into the love frequency anymore, because we don't even know how to. We don't even know how to get together and commune. We get together, everybody's still on their cell phone. Why are we not talking? Why are we not having these type of conversations in person? Why are we not having these conversations here? Why we can't, why aren't we the love frequency of music? Like how we was able to, it was cool to tell a woman how you felt about her in a song. Like, oh, that's all of what they removed out of us. They extracted it out of us in a sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, but think about what I just mentioned too a little while ago. I suggested that once they gave people the ability to be included in exclusivity, that's when things get ruined. Because I used to sell cell phones for Verizon Wireless in 2008. I promise you, I used to only sell cell phones to executives. Palm Pilots, Blackberries, those were the only people who would buy those were executives. We had the flip phones, the snake phones, the Nokias, right? Like we had the vintage phones as people. We were not supposed to have smartphones. Those were for managers, supervisors, executives. You know what I mean? Because they truly had the power and were running companies. Again, just like they gave people access to credit, just like in the 70s too, they did that. And then they did it again with the cars. And now they did it again with the cell phones. These things ruin generations.
Mm-hmm.
These things ruin people.
I was researching about how social media is linked to depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's like, okay, especially when we say it's around the holiday time and we talk about seasonal depression, and they would talk about people that were quote unquote lonely or loners spent more time on social media. So was social media causing them to be lonely, or was their loneliness causing them to be on social media? And I'm like, it's basically kind of like the same thing, but in one of those videos that I was watching, they showed where in a specific, to your point of what you're saying, in a specific time frame, it might even been 2000, it might even been 2008, to where only a small percentage of people had these phones. But then 10 years later, it's like triple, damn near quadruple that. And now you got children saying, yo, and remember I was saying that they were saying like children weren't even, and that's kind of like a good thing, but it's like children had they were less likely to want to go to parties, to be sexually active, to be around peers. They just want to be on. So again, this is like desensitizing us of human activity. And then they was like a good percentage statistics of children was like, yo, I like my cell phone more than I even like people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, so when you really watch these tablet babies, and I realized they was like, yo, this is generation alpha. So when you look at these tablet babies and you watch some of these children that have the outbursts when you take these technological devices from them, that movie right there, Queen, another movie was the one I think I was telling you about called AI.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the Asian dude, Cal Penn from Harold and Kumar.
Yeah.
Yo, Queen, you cannot tell me that is not what we're headed to where the AI is like Gemini or Alexa. But yo, this motor scooter right here was on a whole nother level. And I don't like to tell people, I want people to see it for themselves. But
movie. They should have been saw it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because it's like, yo, and when I was looking at the reviews, because like I said, again, I'm a comment reader. So when I'm looking at the reviews, Queen, they like, yo, this movie wasn't good. Yo, this movie sucked. And I'm like,
wow.
No, because you're looking at it from like a good or bad perspective.
Right.
This is like predictive, talking about predictive programming. This is a form of like predictive programming. They're showing you like the precursor to what's going on. And yo, I say this thing, I'm just gonna call it Gemini because I forget what the name of it was. But I'm gonna call it Gemini. Yo, this thing was running the house like Death Row.
But think about Jordan Peele's movie, I think it's Us, right? The second one. He's basically telling you that your AI is going to become sentient. Because towards the end of the movie, the the lights wouldn't switch on, the doors were, like things were working against the people who were utilizing it, right? Years ago, I had asked, a close friend of mine at one point to look into like the details and the patent details of Alexa. And this was when it first came out, and my spirit just didn't mesh well with it. I feel like I had a dream, and I asked that person, that I was connected to, like, yo, look into this technology and tell me if you think I should put it in my home or not. And they were like, absolutely not, because it has access to listen in on you, right? Then I had saw in Newsweek back in like 2013 that Samsung had a case that came out that said it could listen to you, right? They were spying on people. It was a known case. Then I remember not getting a television in my house. I just had my cell phone. Now I'm trying to get into a flip phone. And you're somebody who doesn't use the technology anymore, right? You stop subscribing to a monthly cell phone. How about you just
Yeah.
talk to people about that? We just talked about how we saw the demise of a generation that's rolling out before our eyes. A lot of parents don't limit kids' screen time. They just give them their tablets and let them run rampant for hours and hours upon days, right? So talk about what was your decision, or why did you come to the conclusion like you don't want to subscribe to this shit anymore?
I think for number one, it was like availability and accessibility for people that were misusing my energy, and like being super available to people that weren't available for me. And like, sometimes people just call you and they'll be like, and you going through some shit. And it's like, yo, how you doing? I'm all right. Well, man, let me tell you this. So that was like one of the first things to like limit accessibility. But then too, what on a deeper scale was like looking at everything in the context of war and looking at everything in the context of being programmed. It was like, yo, I have like an emergency, throwaway, if I need to, but I just felt like, yo, why do I need a cell phone? And I literally had friends saying, yo, I'll get you a cell phone. I'm like, no, I don't want it. It's not the point that I can't have one. I don't want one because I'm really paying all of this money for a calculator. And it was just like, that was a form of like disconnecting. Like we're already connected to the technology. So
Yeah.
you have to use it, but it's like trying to find ways drop by drop of like how to unplug from certain things. So we're never gonna be able to, in my opinion, unless we just get totally independent. And I think us being our generation, we could go without it. But as long as you're like in the matrix, you're gonna need it, accessibility to, this. But
Right.
it was like
Wow.
something that I didn't need, and it was like it was like catch two fish with one hook, right? So it was like, because I don't like to kill two birds with one stone. It was like catch two fish with the same bait, and it was like unplug from that, like what I really don't even need. And then once I kind of went 6 weeks without it, I didn't miss it, Queen, and it was like now I'm almost 2 years without it.
Yeah, no, I
I have
remember
a way
when you
to call
first
people.
stopped.
We talk all the time. I have a way to, but it's like now I limit. It's a better way of like you said, screen time. It's availability time, and I can limit who I really want to talk to. And the ones that really want to find me, they know how to find me. But yeah, I think that we have to really understand how to unplug from certain devices.
100%. I've been saying for like quite a few months that I just want to get a flip phone, and when I went to go actively purchase the flip phone, it was sold out. Like I couldn't even buy it. And they had multiple options on the cell phone carrier, and I could not buy it. I'm like, who is buying the flip phone? This is a phone with no camera, no Bluetooth.
They
Like,
they were out of stock.
yes. And they had 3 different options, and it was all out of stock, talking about they was on a 2-week backlog. And I'm like, that alone
More
tells me.
people we are. More people understand where we are.
So I had read an article a couple days ago that said, oh, so this is Verizon Wireless. They had they let go 50 people or 150,000 people. Yeah, last week an article came out. I want to say Thursday. I want to confirm the number because I literally just sent it to somebody. Because like I said, I used to work there years ago. And knowing that that was the 15,000, I was way off. It said Verizon to cut about 15,000 jobs. And that came out went Thursday on Wall Street Journal. So thinking about them cutting 15,000 jobs, I wanted to do a little digging, especially from a previous employee. I stopped working there in 2010 and 2011 actually. And thinking about that process, I said, I wonder why people are going to be let go. And then it said, Verizon is expensive as all get out. So now people are just like, they have to be able to have cheaper cell phone service elsewhere, because if my service isn't as great as y'all making it sound, then why am I not at another carrier, right? And for me, anytime that I want to use my cell phone, it works. So I don't feel what these people are talking about. And because of the improvement in technology, will we all ever be without a cell phone? Like, or is this just what we're talking about here, right? And now they have the use of satellite phones. So there are other options for us to be able to connect with people. But I personally feel like I want a flip phone. And just knowing you, like you said, knowing that you didn't have a cell phone for like 2 years, I still talk to you probably like a couple times a month.
All the
Like,
time.
and you don't have a phone number. So I'm like, if he could do it, I could do it, bro. I'm like, I look at my cell phone bill often and I'm like, I'm tired of paying $80 a month. Like, I could be doing other shit with this bread. And
Yes.
I talk 12 hours on the phone every month. That's it. And it's to the same person.
See what I'm saying? So, and that's the thing of like pulling back because people like, you don't have a cell phone? No, I don't have a cell phone. I'm okay. I'm not quite like the Amish people yet, but into that, I can fit into that group, of like not having certain things because I'm not materialistic. Even though I like nice things, I don't care about materialism. And I
Right.
think that those are forms of rebellion, right? Like
Right.
we always think, in my opinion, I think we always think like being radical or rebellious is like this drastic thing. And I think at some point it's gonna have to get there in a drastic way. But these are small ways. I don't need your cell phone. Like, and you brought up I remember being in a barbershop years ago.
Mhm.
Um and there was this OG military vet in there. And these was like right when the flat screens were popping.
Mhm.
And he sit up there and flat out told us right then that he knew for a fact that these screens could watch you. So when I get it, every time I get a chance, and the average person would think I'm crazy. So every time, like I often will flip off the TV screen just for fun because it's like they're always watching you. And I remember when I worked for the Goodwill. I remember I worked for the Goodwill for a while, and I was going through their training program. And for graduation, we had to come up. The group that I was in, we had to come up with tech ideas. We had to come up with new innovative tech ideas. So we used the Alexa. Alexa wasn't popping then. So we had to demonstrate Alexa's capability.
Wow.
And I bought one. And when I found out that sucker could listen, I threw it away.
Yeah. I don't
So
have
it's
none
like
in my
it's
house.
like that's how they get us. That's how they get us for like total surveillance. And you know what? It goes back to even like the movie They Cloned Tyrone. Like they told us right then in that movie when he was listening. Remember the scene where they're underground.
Yeah.
They're showing the power of music. So they got the brothers that's in there fighting, and I forget what the song title was, but they got the brothers that going at it, and then they got the guy that switches it, and he switches it to something else, and it changes their mood. Because that's what we got to understand that
Yes.
music is arguably one of the things that could get in your subconscious and change your emotions just like that.
Absolutely. And does every time.
Like if we listen to that gospel, I don't care where we are in our consciousness. If we listen to that gospel, we all remember our big mamas. We all remember our mamas. We all remember. I definitely remember my mama greasing me up, Vaseline. and going to church, you know, all of these things. So we still are cognizant of that. So
Mm.
if we hear some crunk music from being from the A, we hear some whatever that is, all of our conscious and all our emotional states will change with whatever song that they put on. But remember the scene where they're listening to the calls and he's writing down like, yo, Keisha is having problems with such and such. And like they're listening to the phone calls right then.
Yo, I love it because my favorite cousin out in Cali, Nicole, her and I be joking about it all the time, like while we're on the phone, because our phone would literally hang up at certain things that we say, and I'll be like, and we'll pick up and just be cracking up laughing, like, damn, I guess they didn't like that, huh?
Remember
Like, guess we struck a nerve, huh? We
hey,
struck a nerve.
yeah.
We made y'all big mad. Like, what's up? That must
So
have been the word on the list.
not being naive to their capabilities. This is what I try to get people to understand. A book that I always talk about is like the Tavistock Institute by this dude named John Coleman. And this stuff is like it's like old but relevant. So when we understand what the Tavistock Institute is, it's like I always call it like the brainchild of America. It in my opinion, it controls where we get all our ideas, where we get all of these conditionings from. And so I'm like, yo, don't sleep on these people's capabilities. They'll say everybody got a choice. Yeah, true, but the choice is given to you. You know, a lot of times, if you don't understand how the choice works, you don't understand the choice that you're given. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because I like to talk about chemtrails a lot because I had learned about them in 2018 from Zaza Ali. And
I
when
was
I
having a conversation with my baby about this stuff earlier too.
was,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, everybody should know. And unfortunately, I feel like this weather is a little funky and strange because the chemtrails are back, right? Think about it. During the whole government shutdown, we ain't really have no chemtrails. We was all hyped, and it was a known thing. And chemtrails are so popular now, just from a knowledge standpoint, that they even got a movie about it. But one thing people don't understand is that the United States can and will never ever do anything without notifying you first. It is just one of the laws of the universe, right? That's what I always say. It's a law of the universe called cause and effect. So they have to tell you that they're about to do something, before they do it. And 9 times out of 10, that comes out in the form of patents and trademarks. So this is patent technology, chemtrails, HARP, patent technology. These things came out in like the 40s. They
Yes.
were used on, people before they start like just tested before they became a mainstream thing. So one thing that we have to now consider is like what other types of patent technology are there out there that we just haven't been, privy to. I always talk about how I remember one time mentioning to my dad about how I wasn't going to have children until I could open up my hand and a hologram of my son would pop up and me and him be talking about, oh, some kid tried to beat you up at school. All right, hold on. Let me jump in the portal right quick and let me come and get busy with these kids. Right. That was my version of when I would have a child. So the fact that I'm watching something yesterday, I don't even know what I was watching because I'm like, yo, where is the Iron Man phone? Before I get rid of this phone finito for good, bring the Iron Man phone. I haven't bought an iPhone since the 13. Excuse me, since the 11. So in real reality, I think we're on iPhone 17 right now. I have not bought an iPhone since iPhone 11. And anything that I had after that was from work. Like just being a manager, they always give you a cell phone. So, all of my updated technology has come from my jobs. But I need the Iron Man phone before I get out of here. And if y'all not going to release it, because I saw it again in a movie yesterday that wasn't even related to anything, and that chick had a clear phone and her other person had a hologram. I'm like, yo, they holding out on technology. Like big time. People are talking about how the US is so far behind in technology. No, the US is so far behind because of greed. The technology exists. They're
Mm-hmm.
just not allowing us to have access to it
By
because
the time we get it, it's old news.
way old news. Think about how many futuristic movies I feel like I was watching something with Angelina Jolie recently, and she was just like moving stuff around and everything was like clear. Do you understand? Like, this stuff exists. It's just a matter of, hey, are we going to get it or not? And that's fine. I don't need access to it. You know, I just feel like we need to really focus on building the infrastructure. And this is where you know that they really don't care about the earth, right? Think about the bridge that fell in Baltimore last year, right? Then there was different tunnels, and different things always need fixing, and you know, bridges always need repairs, and streets always need to be repaired. They have an ongoing joke about the Van Wyck Expressway in New York that has been under construction since I was born. Like, certain things have always been under construction, right? Why aren't they improving the infrastructure, but yet printing billions of dollars and giving it to other people, other countries? You know, we have to really consider for one moment that these people have never really cared about us. One song that I can't stop listening to right now is Michael Jackson's They Don't Really Care About Us. A lot of people, you know, are wondering, like, does the country really care about us? No, they just care about their state of being not being altered or affected, right? It does not even come down to who's on what party, this and that. The rule is divide and conquer.
Absolutely.
So if we are in a state of division right now, it's just a matter of when do you push the button to conquer.
So dig this, Queen. We was just talking about that, and you know, you made me think about something when you was mentioning Angelina Jolie. So I just did a search, said, when did the Jetsons' first episode premiere? September 23rd, 1962. Okay, people ask, what 5 things did the Jetsons predict? Okay, say things that Jetsons predicted. Vertical cities, smart bathrooms, robot assistants, smart homes and appliances, video messaging, 3D printed food, jetpacks. So this is 1962. Where did they get that information from, Queen?
Patents. Patents. There's no other place.
And we saying, yo, we in a technological era. We got the latest stuff. Is it the latest, really?
You go to Japan, you're gonna be in the time warp.
Yeah. So it make you think, like, man, you know. And I love that song too. Shout out to the Virgo, Michael Jackson. And don't you say nothing about Virgo, Queen. Just let it be. But man, he knew. And it's like even in Keep Your Head Up, a line that always stood out with me. Tupac said, "Yo, we ain't meant to survive because it's a setup." He knew right then, like, yo, he knew the whole freaking time.
I think we all know subconsciously. You know, I continuously ask people, like, is this real? Is this reality real? I'm waiting to be unplugged from the matrix because it cannot be real. Like, we're in such a bad state. And what's terrifying, just to kind of go back to the Atlas and the Hopi prophecy, if we are really headed into the dark ages, people are going to be so erratic and internally festering, right? Look up your internet real quick, right? You know, right? Top vices in people, right? Think about how bad people are alcoholics. That's just a number one vice that I can think of off the top because so many people are alcoholics. But what does that list look like right now?
Let's see what we come up with. It's saying for men, but let's see.
Yeah, it don't matter, men and women, because I'm sure some women can relate.
Okay, hold on. Gambling, biting your nails, greed, alcohol, envy, lust. These are 7 debt. Let's say anger, gluttony, and opiates. All right, let's get in the other one.
Wow. So of course I asked my best friend ChatGPT, and he gave me 100 by category. Child, this is why I be like, bro, you be going over the top, okay? Like, I'm just gonna give you the basics. It said internal and emotional vices: procrastination, comparison, envy, avoidance, emotional numbing, rage, irritability, control issues, digital and social vices,
That's
doom
one.
doom scrolling, social media validation, porn and hypersexual content, online gossip and comment wars, financial and lifestyle vices, impulse spending, debt cycle addiction, overworking, hustle addiction. That's me. That's my vice. Fast food and processed comfort food, physical and chemical vices, alcohol overuse, nicotine vaping, recreational drugs, relationship and intimacy vices. Damn, we still going. Trauma bonding, people pleasing, serial dating, love addiction, staying in situationships. Ooh, they
Mm.
preaching. Ego and pride for spiritual vices, spiritual bypassing, using God, manifestation, or astrology to avoid accountability. That's interesting.
Yo, I hear it all the time.
Addiction to potential. And watch me say, damn, you reading us today, huh?
Some
ChatGPT bugging.
people gonna say, I feel attacked.
Attacked. And it said, and it gave me a laughing emoji, queen. I'm just holding up the mirror you handed me. Uh-huh. This is why I fuck with ChatGPT, because he know how we speak. Like, damn, you gotta point out all the vices. But
we said a few, it went down to the list, but yo, emotional numbing. Look at a lot of that. Staying in situationships, addicted to potential.
baby.
Like things people wouldn't even feel like is a vice. Yo.
Yo, this is why ChatGPT my friend. Because realistically, the way it breaks down, so like if you type that same thing into ChatGPT, I'm almost sure your prompt wouldn't be my prompt, right? It's completely different. And realistically,
Ask, because I'm gonna ask that shit later.
uh,
I'm gonna ask because my curiosity.
what was the prompt that I put in?
Yeah, how did you word the question?
What are some vices that people suffer from today?
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it was really interesting. Because in real life, these are like modern day vices, right? And for me, I was thinking on a basic physical type of level, right? Of course, we could say there are certain people that suffer from addictions. Like I said, alcohol. I knew because I came from that socialite lifestyle, always going to like different events, venues, um, seminars, and then of course always there's after parties. What's the one key thing that people want at these things? Are open bar. So recognizing like, okay, Nadia is a social drinker, right? I'm not gonna have all of this stuff in my house to where I'm abusing it. There are people who cannot go a day without their vices, right? And this year I'm so thankful, after being a victim of burglary on Christmas last year, it really forced me to kind of go within and sit with myself on a deep, deep level to really see how to overcome any of the feelings that came up with that. And during that time, I realized that one of my coping mechanisms was throwing myself into creating. And I was like, one thing that I'm not going to do is throw myself into work,
So is
because
that is that part of the hustle thing, the
Mhm.
hustle culture?
Absolutely.
Right.
Because think about
Right.
it. Lala Anthony, when she separated from Carmelo Anthony, one of the key things that she said is to get over hurt is to work. So we don't realize that we're promoting multiple things here. When you and your husband separate or are no longer together, the best way to get revenge is to throw yourself into work to not deal with the hurt and pain. And
Yeah.
all that is just band-aiding. Say it again.
So it's like, yeah. So it's just like almost. So like it's crazy how they connect because it's like emotional none.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not allowing yourself, and that's the advice you get all the time. You know, a lot of times, the hell, I have a breakup with a woman. They'll say, "Hey, just get busy. Don't think about it." But I have to think about it
You have
because
to,
busy. That don't mean that it don't exist.
or it won't trigger you later on, right? One thing that I'm always going to tell people is just like sit and live in your emotions, whatever it is that you're feeling. And that's why I decided to become free as fuck. I knew that I had got out of a relationship that I was in for 6 years, and I deeply loved that person. And when I got out of it, I felt like my whole world shattered. And I was like, how the hell am I going to function without this person? Because we had such a deep, physical bond. We lived together, all that kind of stuff. So when you're really immersed in somebody and y'all create those soul ties and those soul bonds. So to say that you recover from a divorce by being busy is fucking crazy to me, because that is a covenant bond. That is a deeper spiritual bond, right? That is a bond that you created under God in front of friends and people that you love, honor, and respect. So now you're making an oath to an individual and to God that you're going to love, honor, and cherish, and whatever all that shit that y'all be talking about. And here you are now telling people that the best way to get over a divorce is to just get busy and work. Now, next thing you know, we see her on Power, and now I think BMF, like she just popped up and started doing movies again, right? Did you ever deal with your divorce, or did you just get busy? So I'm always going to advocate for people healing and sitting in that space, right? Until you're actually over it. They always say, like, hey, if you were dating somebody, this is the psych in me. If you were dating somebody for 10 years, it's going to take you 5 years to get out of that person's energy. If you were dating somebody for 3 years, it's going to take you a year and a half to get out of that person's energy. And we all know men, and I'll say niggas specifically, to just jump into a new relationship or get, in bed with somebody else to kind of shake that shit off. Oh, ain't no pussy like some new pussy type vibe, right? So it's like you jump into those types of situations and you haven't even shed that person's energy and aura. And meanwhile, the woman is out here hurting, going through the motion. She all messed up. Next thing you know, she in school. She got a new job. She got a new car. She got a new bag because she sat with that energy and then transmuted it to be something else, right? Now we go 6 months down the road. She's finally released majority of that energy, that heartbreak energy. And now he in bed sick talking about, oh, I want you back, baby. Playing Boys to Men and shit. Like, you understand? And that was all because they didn't sit with that energy.
Yeah, but because we don't process things, and I remember getting out of a same thing, 6.5-year relationship. So I'm dealing with a lot of shit at one point. The transition of my mom. And I remember coming across this sister that I was getting to know. Beautiful, dope sister. And exactly what you said. Like, I wanted her to come in and just straight up replace what I had just left. And I went emotionally, and I think this is what we have to find, like really process, especially as dudes, fellas. We really process like our mental and our emotional space, because I wasn't in the and thank goodness that she picked up on it, and I wasn't in the right mental space to even be dating. Like, I'm going through the loss of my mom, which is the most important thing, but then I'm trying to numb myself and say, yo, I'm trying to replace the woman that, like you said, I love this woman deeply, dearly. And it just ended like that. So it's like a combination of things that just end at one time. How the hell do I go? How the hell do I go on? That's why I felt that statement that you said so much, but it is. Oh, I'm telling you, so I went through. This is when I was searching for therapy, Queen, and I was on this. I hadn't found the therapist that I got right now, and I was on this mental health Zoom call. I don't know if I reminded the sister that was on there of a nigga she knew and didn't like much, but I'm like, I didn't have the proper health insurance at the time, so I'm posing the question of mental health and how do we get access to it? So yo, you do know people can't really afford it. Like, what do people do if they can't afford it? So I don't know. I think I reminded her of somebody. She's like, but she gave me a word in a roundabout way. She was like, let me tell you something, oh, I said. She was like, this not way. She was like, is that your name? Oh, I said. She was like, I was like, yeah. She was like, you know what your problem is? That she don't know me, Queen. She's like, you need to sit in your shit. This what's wrong with you. You need to sit in your shit. I'm like, yo, lady, did I do something to you?
Definitely gave her trigger.
But what was the funny part was I actually did this. Like, she didn't know. I don't know what the hell she was talking about. But I learned, and I remember doing a video saying unpack your shit. I had to sit in my emotions and really process them and deal with my emotions like a man, and not numb your emotions, fellas, and say, no, man, we all feel that. Because I think what we did, we began to do like word association with emotions, right? So we began to say, oh, that's a feminine trait. Oh, that's a motherfucking emotions are emotions. Like, so that was the best thing I did. And I eventually found therapists and began to like, and I'm still got a long way to go, Queen. But now, and that's what I was telling the bro Andre earlier. We was on live and I said, bro, you hear better or you hear different when you're healing. You don't get through your traumas.
Heck no. And that's why it's so important, like I said, to sit in your emotions. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You still have to show up for yourself. One thing that I say a lot of people suggest is like, like I'm not who I say I am, because they know me to be someone that I'm no longer resonating with, right? I've never been this calm. I've never been this
Really?
open. Never. No way. I've never been this like boisterous, I would want to say, but I've always bit my tongue. I've never gave people like my honest opinion about nothing. Like I kept bad company around, even if I felt like, these are my friends and I knew that they were shady as fuck and would even be talking about me, but I kept them around because I thought that they were my friends. And that was when come from a childhood like mine where you fear rejection. So a lot of us, even in our Black community, we fear rejection, Hispanic community too. Like, you don't realize that having absent parents, or, grandparents who were our primary caretakers leaving us, transitioning, those create rejection wounds and abandonment wounds in us, and we don't even realize that we're keeping that within us, or walking around with that hurt and that pain. And now when we try to get into a relationship and try to conform and get close to somebody, those wounds reappear. We don't recognize that, right? So for a long time, I kept people around because of a fear of rejection. And when I realized that I don't give a fuck about these people, they don't give a fuck about me. When I turned that mindset, took the rose colored glasses off, is like my preferred mindset. There's something in a Libra, like the scales is tipped, right? So we could be all good and all bad, all on one side. The good is like here and the bad is down here. And then if we feel that you are doing something nefarious to us, that shit goes like this. And you just don't exist.
So around what point did you like have this shift? Because I think we've been knowing each other like for like around 3 years now, or give or take. And I actually say the opposite about you. I'm like, you are who you say you are. Like, because some people post and pretend to say they these people, and you can only fake. I always say energy is a dry snitch. You can only pretend that you something for so long. You can only say you something. But ever since I've come across you, you always have been this calm, cool. So when did that take place? Because that's kind of hard to believe. But when did that take place that you began to like be calm and then boisterous?
I'd say it started at like my first acknowledged awakening. I'll say that that started in 2017. And I realized that, maybe I had the narcissistic traits. Maybe I too was in turn the one provoking people. Maybe my personality or anger issues or unhealed traumas were the reason why I was dating the same person in different bodies, right? So when I started realizing that these things were real, I just needed to say, okay, they can't always be the problem, right? They say, like, when you're pointing a finger, you have three fingers pointing back at yourself, right? So,
Cover it right there.
right. So I'm like, oh shit, let me go look at myself a little bit closer, right? Because maybe I am the one provoking. And then something that always comes up in any type of, relationship that I'm attempting to build is people like to see me upset. People like to see me, raise hell or just get triggered because they think it's a funny thing because I'm always so chill and so calm. And they be like, I knew your ass wasn't like that before. I
Mm.
knew there was something. Like, no, motherfucker, you provoked me. And now I got to show you this work. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I am a person who likes to be chill, calm, cool, collective until I'm at that maximum. And then, you're going to blow a fucking casket. I haven't been there in so many years. And even when I was last there, it was at like 50% capacity. But prior to that, that shit was unhinged. Like, I was an impulse buyer, an impulse spender. I
Mm.
always had an attitude, like you say, like I say, you look at me crazy, you say something crazy, I'm going the fuck off. Like, that person was crazy. And then I was naturally just mean. Like, I would study people and know all of their flaws and just attack all of them if you got me to that level. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that is a calculated evil person. And I was definitely that person. So when I decided to flip that script and just say, okay, I need to be a little bit more zen, I need to start looking at myself a little bit closely for my flaws and things that I didn't like in myself and just change them all. So I had wrote down things that I loved, things that I wanted to change, things that I feared. And that's when I say free as fuck. I'm like, I would just want to be free of all of this stuff. So, I read a book, Attached, I think it's called, where it just basically talks about your attachment style, right? There are three attachment styles, and based upon this exam that take inside of the book, they teach you more and more about your type of attachment style. So I realized that I'm a very secured attachment style because I can self heal. I can, right? And because I had a dad who, separated from my mom when I was 5 years old. Right after that, my grandmother, or before that, my grandmother died. My mom, was always working. So was my dad when I was with him. So it's like I naturally had to become secure in my own self. I had to be 100% self sufficient. So when you are the man and the woman of your life at such a young age, and then you never really had that opportunity to be a child, you don't really give people the satisfaction of seeing you in a certain light. Long story shorter, right? So you just become things that you don't want to. And my reaction to many things was just a form of fight or flight or a protection mechanism, right? So I've done a lot of self-assessment and I've done a lot of therapy. At one point I was going to therapy 3 times a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I went down to like every other day. And then eventually I went down to every other week. So, when you start realizing that you're capable of getting yourself through these evils and through these personality disorders, because technically to me that's what it is. That's why I always say, like, I feel like everybody's schizophrenic because we all come with such experiences that allow us to be who we are well into our 40s and 50s.
Because society, especially Western society, it breeds like schizophrenia. It breeds like damn near multiple personalities, right? Going back to what we was talking about last week, the whole Ruby thing. Now, imagine the people that go to work and they have to be a certain way, like code switching in a sense, and that like that. That's a form of that.
Hell yeah.
You see what you see what I'm saying? So it just builds up, and then say you like a person and you don't know how to be yourself. You kind of adapt and become what that person wants you to be. That person being not themselves, but what you telling them you like. So society kind of breeds that, and that's a real statement because I remember I was going to therapy like twice. I was going to therapy like twice a week. And it went down to like she's like, "You doing real good." So it went down to like monthly. Now, okay, how I am now is like I'm chill. I'll navigate on my own. But when I start to feel like I'm getting full, queen, like yo, bro, I need to schedule an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And getting rid of that stigma, people, of like, yo, everybody's crazy in this place. This is an insane asylum. Everybody. And I like how you really took that ownership to where they say black women don't take accountability. I like how you said, yo, I think I might have had them narcissistic traits. Because I think everybody has a form of it to where you just full blown or where you have like that. You say, yo, I think I might have been a problem. Yo, because I would, you really realized how evil that you could be. You was like, yo, I would know a person's flaws. And once you like that goddamn fuse, I'm gonna talk about
Roast.
your ugly and your buck teeth and your childhood.
Oh, baby.
That's wicked.
Talk about your mama and your auntie.
You see what I'm saying? And I think like also, that's where a point of like being vulnerable. Like that's the most coolest thing to where a person can be vulnerable with you and not because that's really why like and I'm sure if any brothers disagree, y'all can put it in the comments, but I'm sure that that's where a lot of us come from and our battle with our emotions. Because one thing we don't talk about is like, especially when you become like this warrior energy, man, you can easily be a tyrant in your household. And to me, in my opinion, that comes from not knowing how to process our things. Because we say, yo, we mean and we don't really process hurt. Talking to a friend of mine, talking to my ex and having to release certain emotions from her. And I was saying that, my abandonment issues, like me trying to attach myself, and I'm going to read that book, but me trying to attach myself to certain people, it's like it's coming from a place of abandonment. So I just want somebody to be there, which is not bad. It don't come from a malicious place, but it's not good because you become codependent, right? So it's like learning how to stand on your own, and I'm attaching myself to these people, and I'm looking for these people to pour into me, and that's not what you need. But brothers not knowing how to be vulnerable because we feel like communication is feminine. We feel like the ability to talk about your feelings, like, and we determines. I saw a video this morning before we talked. And it was this unhealed chick. And she was like, here's the thing about vulnerability, Queen. She was like, if I see a man crying, say he having a bad day, and he's trying to vent to me or pouring down, I see that as, I'm not gonna look at you the same. And I went to the comments.
Dang.
There it is right now. See, she's validating why I don't feel the way. See, this is why you got to use them for this work. This is why that and that. And we can't let social media, we can't let the crazies determine what healthy sounds like.
I think we need to all get the F off social media. I mean, respectfully. I feel like we need, people are not disciplined enough to have detoxes, right? I'm just sick of this all day. Like the thumb scroll, this part right here, I don't do that. I have never done that. Like I'll do it 2 times and I'll be like, how do people do this? Like that's why I don't have TikTok, because I felt like that shit almost put me in a trance. And I just couldn't handle being a consumer of something that I never said I would be a consumer of. Do you understand? Like, I first went on Facebook as a consumer, and then I segued into a new Facebook page as a business owner, and I've been on Meta and any other platform as a business first, right? My personal resume for a career, I've had 3 amazing, abundant careers. My personal job, my company that I created is on my resume. And people was like, "Oh, you need to remove that, or you shouldn't talk about it so much in interviews." Bitch, this is my history. What are you talking about? The job that I'm applying for right now is basically you're hiring me based upon these things that I've been doing in my company. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel that people don't recognize, people's hard work. And when they see that you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to fall in line with that corporate hustle shit. That's how they're basically looking at me right now.
Mhm.
Right? That I'm uncontrollable. And I'm like, hey, maybe I am. But at the same time,
But see, that's by like you're not controlled by societal standards.
and I'll probably never be. I wasn't born to be that way.
I'm always the crazy person. I'm always the person that people feel like they have to have these talks with before we go play. Oh, be quiet. I know how to be act around people.
Ah, yo, that is me too. That's so funny. And that's exactly how I was. Like, yo, if somebody gets you mad, you can't cause a scene. Oh no, I'm definitely going to cause a scene if somebody talk to me crazy. Like, why I gotta be the one put in the corner? Why can't you address the other person?
Yeah.
It's crazy as hell,
Because
and
because you don't go along, you mess up the assembly line, Queen. You're not just going on the conveyor belt like you're supposed to.
and I don't get me wrong by any means. Like I said, I've converted to free as fuck because my demeanor, my tone, the way I show up in a lot of places is not like how I used to be. And then I'm also sober, so it's like, oh, I'm real bad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely more quieter, definitely not the life of the party, definitely still going to come up in some queen energy, and I'm definitely going to be OD petty if you say something crazy. So, I feel like a lot of people are, what I love about my stable friends is that regardless of whatever energy that I've segued or transferred or transformed into, they love me through that all, right? There are some people who are just solid A1 day one type people, who will always love you for anything because they've seen you grow and they know your true heart. Then you got other people who are there for just all the wrong reasons, right? And you have to get them Judas people up out of your energy. And you also know how, the way you learn how to read energy the best is by knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started tapping into myself and seeing what I liked, what I didn't like, managing my emotions, because that's where that emotional intelligence comes from, right? Just having that emotional quotient to like really know you through and through, knowing all of your vices. Because what can you say about me? Oh, you're going to trigger me with something that I've shared with you in confidence, right? A lot of men don't like when women do that to them, right? Oh, I confided in you with this, and then now during an argument you want to pull it out of your back pocket. I'm like, yeah, it's convenient, you know what I mean? But the way that we may do that may be
That's
so
where
wrong, right? You want to hit people where it hurts or what have you. So I think it's really important for us to really know ourselves in order to operate in any relationship or in any capacity as best as we can. A lot of people are always going to try to use our personality or our upgraded personalities against us. You have to learn how to show up for yourself and own yourself, right? I said recently that I was unblackmailable, and that meant that I'm never gonna not stand behind my actions. I'm going to have accountability for things that I may have said or done. If I don't like something, there was a time in the past where I never voiced that, right? I just would eat that and be like, all right, whatever, cool, because I didn't like confrontation. And I feel like sometimes there are people who don't like confrontation, and there are people who are just simply avoidant. And that's not good either, right? So I feel that if you are somebody who knows that you may have some unhealed trauma and you're just completely avoidant, then you need to learn how to get back into your higher self, right? You need to figure out ways that you can love yourself a little bit more energetically and simply just do what it is that you can, to make sure that you're whole and to make sure that you're healed, because a lot of people are not always going to be their healed selves when interacting with you, right? They're always going to show up as who they feel that you're supposed to be. It looks like my co-host is having issues. um, and I really feel that it's really in our best interest to show up as ourselves so that we can continue to be free, so that we can continue to um, get the blessings that we're supposed to get. Because let's just face it, if you're in a space and you're deceiving people, I think that you should really consider what would that do to you if you continue to show up in that energy, right? How could somebody technically harm you if how could somebody harm you if you're not showing up as yourself? So Obasi, I was just basically saying, like, it's important for us to show up as ourselves, especially when we're operating with different people and in relationships, and not to be a person who is out to deceive someone, right? Kind of giving off like that Judas energy. The importance of showing up as self, as our healed selves. I really think that it's wrong for people to jump into connections and relationships, even if it's just regular friendships. Sometimes people just don't have the capacity to give, right? Sure,
Right.
we all want and desire and need a friend, but I feel like the pandemic did something to us that a lot of people will probably never want to admit, right? It affected a lot of people's emotional psyches, and it also affected a lot of people's physical, right? Because some people really just have so many demons that they can't sit with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that you're a person who doesn't like to be lonely, then this is where you stay in those situationships, you stay in those connections longer than you're supposed to, right? Now you're starting to abuse people and showing up in that Judas Iscariot energy. And I feel that a lot of people aren't aware that there are some people who can read energy and feel when you're not being genuine, right? Those are the people who are extremely tapped in. So would you like to say anything about that, considering you had all this issue?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, throw me out the room. Somebody threw me off. Yeah, that's where knowing yourself. And I think sometimes, especially in this, we'll say things that's just, it's cliche and it's fun to say, know thyself, but know thyself. The first person you gotta get really intimate with is yourself. You have to
Mhm.
get intimate with your emotions. You have to really dig and not project and say, yo, this person caused that. Now, that person is like this. I had to be real with myself about my relationship. And I said, well, I caused 30% of the turmoil in the relationship. The 70 was hers. And she even admit that. But I wasn't like blameless. And how some people really look, and that's the thing of like feeling like they're always the victim. Yeah, I might have been victimized, but I stayed out of low self-esteem. And it's okay to talk about these things. This is why you are your lower self, because you're in your lowest parts. So I stayed out of low self-esteem. I stayed for convenience. I stayed just the sake of having. And when you begin to read energy, yo, I knew like 3 years into that thing that this wasn't it. Because I've never been like loved on like really, really proper and true. But
Mhm.
I know what it don't I don't know what it is per se to have it firsthand, but I know what it's not.
That
And
part.
when a person is not showing up, like you said, not showing up how you show up for them, and you got their back and you showing them, yo, if it's time to go down, I got it. But it's like there's like contingent. It's like, well, not being there. I'm talking about, and what it looked like was
Mhm.
not showing up for me when I need them the most. I'm talking about not when I'm having just a bad day. No, you're there when I'm having a bad day, but when like things like vital things, my mom is passing, like you're not there, and it's like I had to really make an apology to myself for allowing myself to be abused like that. So
Yeah.
it's important to go through the fire and go through that and come out not bitter and come out and say, and not come out and blame all women or blame, black women. It's not like that's a low self-esteem trait for males to like blame. It's not.
Yeah.
Like we have to really look at like the stuff that we take ourselves through, and it's like you said, and the most vital thing, Queen, was like dating that repetitive person just in different bodies.
Ghetto.
And I think that falls under the type. So the type is just this same thing, and it's like this is why you're going through. And I would argue that some people, they want that type. They don't, because they're not used to like healthy relationships. Because like listen to how you say it. So you being that type of person that will get with you back then and just go off and go on 10. You couldn't even receive the healthy relationship or somebody that was emotional. You were gonna rip that shit up like paper.
And that started off good. I'm not gonna hold you. But one thing for me is that like I don't have a type of
Right.
person. Like I'm not. If you line up all of them people, they all look different. Nobody's the same. Everybody's not over 6 foot. It started out that way, but it didn't end that way, right? I've dated plenty of different types of people because I'm a sapio, right? I'm not attracted to that physical avatar 9 times out of 10. So, of course there has to be some type of attraction there, but it's all about the intellectual because I'm not a dummy. We all know that by now, right? So, like if you don't know how to have a conversation with me or can't hold a conversation longer than X time, I already know what's up. Like you don't gotta convince me way too long. Like, and if I get bored super fast, then you don't gotta convince me way too long. You know what I mean? Like next.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of people don't realize that a lot of us are dating the same type of spirits because those lessons we've never conquered.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do about the person or what they look like or what I need to date somebody who's 6'10", this, that, that shit don't matter. It's really because you haven't conquered or achieved those lessons. And I got this discernment that's like right now, right? I already know what I know and feel. And sometimes you gotta see things for yourself before you can even say, okay, this is not what this is, or this is what that is. And I'm like, all I gotta do is go to sleep. Because my dreams, them guys, ancestors, God, they all gonna be in here talking, baby. That's all I gotta do is go to sleep. And that's why I'm like, people who don't believe in spiritual gifts are crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because they always talk about woman intuition, and that's why I'm like, sometimes a man really be wandering out in the wilderness until he bump into a woman and get with her. I don't care if it's a lover or not. Like, you really need somebody who's like ride or die by your side, who could give you that discernment, who can give you those situations and help you navigate through some of life's toughest times. Like, I got a good guy friend and I got a good girlfriend, right? And I could go to either of those people and say, hey, this is the mathematics. What do you think the thoughts are? What is the end result type of vibe? So, I feel like we need decent people in our corner at all times, because we all know this world is crazy. Yo, we got a 3-eye atlas coming to us and they not even releasing data about it, child.
We got transhumans. They're trying to like sample people. Like, do we really get it? To bring it back around to our topic, y'all gotta understand?
Do you know about they're doing it?
Hmm.
Think about it. We have melanin. I don't look like I have melanin, but I really do. And I get as dark as them in the sun. And I'm back in the north and I ain't got no sun, so go figure. But people who lack melanin are not able to survive the increasing temperatures of the sun. So I have been deep diving into the sun's solar cycles since 2022, probably about the latter part of 2021, and just recognizing that they have something called the solar maximus. So right now we are in the solar maximus for year 10 to 11 for the sun, which means that the sun is going to erupt, is going to have storms, tornadoes, all of that, their own type of weather on this hot, fiery ball that keeps our planet warm, right? So, with this energy that is happening at the maximus, we're seeing the maximum amount of solar flares, CMEs, exposure, X class flares. X class solar flares is what lit up the sky red last week. So now people believe that this ends at year 11, but they don't know that it could go up to year 14. So, if we could last in a solar maximus up to year 14, it was 124 degrees in Arizona days in a row when I was there over the summer, okay? Days in a row. So if there are people who are melanated who can withstand sitting out in the sun for umpteenth hours, right? We love it. We feed off of it. It gives us downloads and it gives us upgrades, to our body. Our ancient DNA and dormant DNA is being activated from the energy that's being emitted off of the sun because it was dormant for X years, right? There are holes opening up in the sun, coronal holes that are releasing energy to us. We don't know how long that's been lying dormant, right? They probably nurtured our ancestors and ancestors before them. So that same ancient energy is now hitting us. So if you have melanin, then you are able to survive these solar maximus temperatures. However, if you do not have melanin, you're now a little bit more red. You are more exposed to cancers and melanoma. I've seen so many people with melanoma this summer than any year ever before, right? You have autoimmune diseases at a top tier level, right? You see a lot of people with lupus. That is an autoimmune disease. You have people's bodies who are eating themselves because they're also eating toxic food. They just had another recall on Chobani Greek yogurt. I'm like, chow, ain't nothing good on this planet. So it's like you're seeing the demise of not only a people, but you're also seeing a crumbling of our planet as well because of the energy that's coming here. So when you see that white people from the Caucasus Mountains cannot survive the high increasing temperatures of the planet, who are also manipulating the weather, so now you have weather control, that is resulting in a fight or flight response, which is now resulting into AI. Let's create cyborgs. Let's create these digital transhumans, things that allow our personal consciousness to survive inside of a robot. They need to survive on this planet to keep their civilization alive, and what is the best way to do that? AI. So I don't believe that, these things are happening by chance. I believe this is a way that they're trying to stay alive, big Saturday Night Fever energy. So, when you realize what the agenda truly is and how people are going to try to navigate through this, you have to think 2 steps, 3 steps ahead of them because you have that spiritual energy, that third eye crown chakra energy, right? You have that ancient civilization energy. You already have those upgrades from the sun, sitting out in the sun. I told you 2 days in a row sitting outside in the freaking cold. I'm still going outside.
Yeah, that wind was blowing too, wasn't it?
It's still blowing, child, and I'm going to go back out there again. So it's like, regardless of the fact or how the weather looks, you still need that downloads. You still need that sunlight, even if the sun is not out. The best time to go suntanning is when there's an overcast. So what makes you think that you're not still getting that energy? We just need to take advantage of the sun while we have it, right? Because who knows if that's next to go.
I'm just looking up something. Yeah. No, and that's basically where it is.
Yeah, my stomach is growling. I got to get to it.
Okay. Always another good one.
Yes, as promised. This was a great conversation. We didn't talk about a lot, but hey, we always got for next time.
I think we did. If they really listen, I think we did.
Yeah, I just want people to really look into the Hopi prophecy because that joint is mad good. and it could really give you some great information and insight about, you know, ancient civilizations and dynasties of the world. And this is where you have to take many schools of thought: Buddhism, Hinduism, you
Yes.
know, Muslim, and, you know, Christianity, and blend them all into one. Because while things may not be happening in a physical, it doesn't mean that it's not happening in the spiritual. And I think that's something that we all need to remember. Right? Remember when they said, oh, the world's going to end in 2012? Oh, no, it's going to end in the year 2000. Those are all things according to a Gregorian calendar that was recently created.
And then you just missed the one about a month ago, the rapture. You just missed that one.
I didn't miss it. I knew I wasn't going nowhere because I'm waiting for the 3-eye atlas.
Yeah. Hey, if they pick you up, swing by and tell them to scoop me. Do not leave me.
Hey, I ain't gonna hold you. I've been asking for far too long.
That's
Like,
the first thing I thought about. Goddamn Queen got her wish because you know, like, yo, y'all come get me. Yo, don't leave me here with this here.
child, look, whoever's supposed to be on board gonna be on board. How about that? Shit, me. I ain't saying nothing to nobody. If I get floated,
Anybody say Queen?
just know I got beamed up Scotty.
Yo.
That's
Wow.
my yes, sir. All right, always a pleasure. It's been real. I'll send you the info on the back end per usual. We're gonna probably try to pick up a live stream. I don't know if we're gonna keep using StreamYard because they tried it with that price every week. Tried it, okay? Like tried it, but we're gonna work this out. We'll let you know when the next live will be.
Peace.
Peace.